Installing and upgrading Windows Vista. Microsoft Windows Vista is the latest Windows operating system today, and it's been a long time in development, but it's finally here. So over the course of these videos, you'll come to realize that Windows Vista isn't just an incremental upgrade to its predecessor Windows XP. It's certainly a lot more than that. With its flashy new interface, new security and usability features, it's streets ahead of any previous version of Windows. Now, Windows Vista is available in 5 different versions. There's 2 different home versions, 2 different business versions, and a version called Ultimate. Now, actually, there will be a 6th version of Vista as well, and that's a stripped-down version called Windows Vista Starter, which is designed for very low-end PCs, and it won't include many of the new fancy features in Vista, and in all honesty, it's not likely that ULI will ever use or perhaps even see it. So at a glance here, the main differences between these versions of Windows Vista is that the Home Editions include some entertainment features not found in the Business Editions, and the Business Editions include some management features you won't find in the Home Editions. But if you want it all, I suspect that, like me, you'll go for the Ultimate Edition that includes everything. Now, whichever version of Windows Vista you decide to buy, you'll have roughly the same set of hardware requirements you'll need to meet in order to install the product. So Microsoft have broken down the requirements in 2 ways. If you want to meet the actual minimum hardware requirements, you'll need at least an 800 MHz CPU, 512 MB RAM, a 20 gig hard disk with around 15 gig free. You'll need a video card that's capable of running DirectX version 9, a monitor running 800 by 600 resolution, and a DVD-ROM drive if you're installing from optical media. Now, whilst a PC with these minimum specifications will indeed run and install Vista, it won't be a pleasurable experience, and it won't display the great new Aero interface, which gives you the nice translucent windows, and it won't be capable of running the new 3D task switcher. So with that in mind, Microsoft have also defined a premium Vista ready PC, which ups the minimum specifications to a 1 GHz CPU, 1 GB of RAM, and the graphics card has to have at least 128 MB RAM. Now, in my opinion, even the premium recommendations are too low for any real exciting computer experience, and given the fact that the cheapest PCs nowadays all come with well over a 2 GHz CPU, there's no real reason why most people won't be able to exceed these recommendations here. So the most likely upgrade people are going to need with their existing systems is going to be a new graphics card if they want to run the Aero interface and perhaps maybe some more RAM. Anyway, these are the minimums as defined by Microsoft, so just make sure that you have a computer or notebook that meets them, and you can begin enjoying Windows Vista. Okay, well, rather than making this a long, drawn-out video telling you all about the new features of Windows Vista, let's just install the product, we'll see what's new and how it can benefit you over the rest of this video series. So I've gone ahead and placed the Windows Vista DVD in my drive, and I've started up my computer, and the first thing that Windows Vista Setup is going to do is to load some files that Setup needs and begin the installation and boot into this GUI mode. Okay, well, the installation of the base files has completed. Now, Setup requires us to define the language that we want to use to install Windows Vista, the time and currency format, and what type of keyboard layout that we're using. Now, you can choose whatever fits your location from these lists here, although the defaults are most likely to be the correct choices, so I'm simply going to click Next. Okay, now we're ready to install Windows Vista on our computer. Now, if you like, you can read some information about things you should know before installing Windows Vista, although this help file really only details obvious things like making sure that you have your Windows license key handy and things like that, but feel free to read it in your own time. Now, if you are currently having problems with a previous Windows Vista operating system installation, you can click on this Repair Your Computer link, and this will bring up a new window that allows you to attempt to repair Windows Vista. Now, note that this will only repair Windows Vista, not older versions of Windows, and since this is a new computer that I'm installing Vista on, you can see here that I don't actually have any previous versions listed. Alright, so I'll cancel this by clicking on this little X here in the top right corner of this window. And we'll go and begin installing Windows Vista on this computer by simply clicking on Install Now. Alright, now that we've got this far in the installation of Windows Vista, if at any time you need access to a command prompt, you can simply hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and hit F10, and you'll see a command prompt window, but this only works after you've clicked on that install button. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do here is to enter in our Windows product key, which of course is the 25-digit key supplied with your copy of Windows Vista. Now, if you like, you can automatically choose to activate Windows Vista when the product is installed and you first go online. Either way, if you choose to uncheck this box or not, you're going to have to activate Windows Vista within 14 days or it'll simply stop working. So what I'll do is I'll uncheck this box and we'll do it later so you can see how it's initiated manually. Alright, well, I'm going to have to enter in my license code here, and unfortunately, as generous as I am, I'm not going to give you my license code, so I'm going to enter in my license code and then simply click Next. Now we'll need to read and agree with the license terms and conditions that Microsoft have set out here for Windows Vista, so we'll check this box here to indicate we accept this license, and we'll click Next. Okay, so do we want to upgrade a previous Windows operating system or install a new one? Well, as you can see here, since this is a new computer, I don't have a copy of Windows installed to upgrade, so I only have one choice anyway. But I'll let you know something right now. In Vista, an upgrade in the traditional sense really isn't an upgrade at all. In fact, when you choose to upgrade a previous operating system to Windows Vista, what happens behind the scenes is that Vista Setup copies all of your Windows settings and data to another folder and then installs a fresh new operating system before moving your data back. So in essence, choosing an upgrade gets you a new installation anyway. Oh, and just remember that if you do go ahead and install Windows Vista, you can't uninstall it back to a previous version. Now, it's unlikely that you'd want to anyway, since Windows Vista is far superior to anything else, but it's worth pointing it out. Alright, so we'll choose the custom option to install a new version of Windows Vista. And now I'll have to choose where we want to install it. Now, on my computer here, I only have a single hard disk, so I'll leave the default here to install it on disk 0, which will become my C drive. But if you'd like to perform additional actions on your disk, like extend or format them before you install Windows Vista, you can come down here and click on the Advanced Drive Options link here. And this is where you have the ability to modify your drives and partitions before you go ahead and start the installation. You can also load any drivers that will be required by your drives or drive controller if it's not already recognized by Windows Vista. So if you don't see any drives up here, then you'll probably require a driver disk from the vendor of your hardware, which you can then load so you can see your drives and modify them as you like. Alright, well, I'm simply happy to leave my drive selected as it is, so I'll go and click Next. And then Windows Vista will begin copying the files it needs to my hard drive and then start installing the new operating system. So as you'd expect, this will take a while as we are installing an operating system here, so I'm going to pause this video and we'll return once Setup has copied all the files it needs to our hard drive and again asks us for some input. Alright, well, Windows Vista has now been installed, so we'll need to define an administrator's user account for this computer. So enter in the name of a user for this PC here, so I'm just going to call mine Winstructor, and I'll enter in an optional, but highly recommended, of course, password as well. So I'm just going to enter in my password here, and I'll need to do it again just to confirm it. Now, you can also provide a password hint if you like, which can be used, of course, to prompt you what your password is in case you happen to forget it. Now, you can also assign your user account here a picture, and this defaults to this flower here, which really isn't my taste, so I'm just going to change this to, say, this soccer ball, which is a bit more me. And now we'll click Next. And we can enter in a host name for our computer, and the default name chosen will be your username -PC, but of course you can certainly change it if you like. And we can also choose a Windows desktop wallpaper from these choices, but of course we can certainly change that later on. So I'll just select one, and I'll leave my default computer name here and click Next. Okay, well, now we can set up how Windows should be updated. Now, the default is to use the recommended settings, and in most cases, that's probably what you should choose. But you can choose to only install important updates or not to install anything at all, and then you can do it yourself manually. Of course, the only problem with doing it manually is like doing backups. You start with good intentions, and then you forget about it. So I'm going to use the recommended settings so my Vista operating system can be patched automatically when new bug and security vulnerability patches are available. Okay, now we'll set the time zone for where our computer lives in the world, and of course the date and the time. So just double check that everything here is correct, but you can easily change these later on anyway. Now I'm just going to accept these defaults and click next. Now finally, we'll need to tell Vista where this computer is located in order for it to choose the correct network security settings. Now we have options here for home, work, or a public location. Now home and work are both very similar in that they're expecting you to be connected to other computers in a local network scenario or connected to the internet through a router. Now if your computer is in a public location or directly connected to the internet via dial-up or perhaps directly through a DSL or cable modem without being behind a firewall or a router, then choosing the public option is the best, since Vista will be loaded with more secure settings. But whatever you choose here, we can of course change all this later on, so I'm just going to choose work. So we're basically done here, and now we'll simply click Start. Now Vista will go off and do some performance checks on our computer to see if this PC has the required grunt to be able to run the new Aero interface, and this can take a while, so I'm going to pause the video here and we'll return once it's complete. Okay, now we're ready to log in. Now at the new Windows Vista login screen here, we can see our username has already been populated for us, along with our chosen graphic, leaving us only to enter in the password to log on. Now down the bottom left of this logon screen though, we do have this blue icon here, which gives us access to some of Vista's accessibility options that can assist people with difficulties such as poor eyesight, by having Vista read out text aloud through the PC speakers or making text larger, and so on. Now on the right hand side of this logon screen, we have this red icon here. Actually it's two red icons really. The part on the left here with the white circle allows you to shut down the computer without actually logging onto it, and this little up arrow icon gives you a fly out menu allowing you to shut down or restart this computer. Now a word of warning though, and this isn't one of my favorite things about Windows Vista, is that it doesn't give you a confirmation message asking you, are you sure you want to shut down? It just shuts down your computer, so bear this in mind before you go blindly clicking on this icon here. Alright, it's time. Let's enter in our password here and we'll log on to Windows Vista. Now the first time we do this, it will take a few moments to set up our desktop and user profile and so on, but subsequent logons will be much faster than this. Okay, now Windows Vista is finally installed. As you've seen, installing Vista isn't a difficult thing to do at all, but like installing most Windows operating systems, it will take a while. Alright, well, we've successfully completed a brand new installation of Windows Vista, so let's move on and take a look at how we can upgrade an older version of Windows to Windows Vista. Upgrading directly to Windows Vista is only supported if you're running one of these versions of Windows XP with Service Pack 2. So if you are running XP but you don't have Service Pack 2, then you'll need to install that first. Now before we attempt to upgrade Windows XP to Windows Vista, just make sure you have a good backup of anything you need, just in case something goes wrong. Now I'm going to be upgrading a Windows XP Professional machine, and obviously looking at this table here, I've got choices to upgrade to Windows Vista Business Edition or the Ultimate Edition. Now I'm going to upgrade to the Ultimate Edition, but just make sure before you go and purchase your copy of Windows Vista that you do have a supported upgrade path if you plan on upgrading from an older version of Windows. Okay, so here I am on a Windows XP Professional machine, and I've gone ahead and I've dropped the Windows Vista DVD in the drive, and it fires up this splash screen that we saw when we ran our clean installation earlier. Now from here, if you haven't done it already, you can use this top option here to check your hardware online to make sure that it is in fact compatible with Windows Vista. And this isn't a bad idea, truth be told, since the last thing you probably want to find out is that you've blown away Windows XP and Vista won't work due to your hardware not being supported. Okay, now before we get started here and upgrade Windows XP, if you want to transfer your existing settings to another drive or computer first, before you attempt an upgrade, then we can come down here to the bottom and click on Transfer Files and Settings from another computer. And this will allow us to transfer these things here, our user accounts, folders, files, and other settings. So we'll click Next, And this gives us the option of using a direct cable connection to another computer over a network connection, or we can write these files out to removable media like CD or DVD. Alright, well I'm going to cancel this here since I won't bother transferring anything. And this will take us back to our original screen where we can click on Install Now. Alright, well we have two options here. We can choose to connect to the internet and download any available updates to Windows Vista, and this will include any new drivers, Windows updates, and anti-spyware updates that have been released since Windows Vista came out. Of course, you can also download these later on using Windows Update, so I'm going to choose the second option here to not download any updates. Now at the bottom here, if you do want to send the results of any problems with your installation, you can certainly check this box, but I won't do that now. We'll move on. We'll just click the second option here to not go out to the internet for any updates, and we'll move on. Alright, now you'll need to enter in the license key you were given when you purchased your copy of Windows Vista, and you can choose again to automatically activate Windows when you connect to the internet. Now personally, not only am I going to uncheck this box, but I'd recommend that you do as well, especially if this is the first computer you've installing Windows Vista on. You see, you might just find that once Vista is installed, that there's hardware and software that you have that simply doesn't work. After all, this is a brand new operating system here. So if you wait at least a few days before activating your copy, then if you need to go back to an older operating system for a while until there's drivers for Vista, or purchase new hardware, then you haven't activated it. So of course, you can go and do it then. Now of course, if everything's great after a few days, then go ahead and activate Windows then. So obviously I'm going to uncheck this box. I'm going to pause this video here. I'm going to enter in my license key and click Next. Okay, now we'll need to agree with the license terms and conditions and click Next. Now at this point, we can choose to either upgrade Windows XP or to install a clean copy of Windows Vista and then dual boot them if we like. So let's run with an upgrade first, and we'll come back and we'll see how we can also do a dual boot system later on in this video. Okay, well Setup has found a couple of problems that might bite us later on when we upgrade XP to Vista. So if we click on this link, we can see what problems we might have. And it's telling me here that my sound card might have problems, as well as MSN Explorer and Windows Messenger 5.1. Well, I don't really care about the last two here, since later versions of this software probably exist anyway. But it's a good reminder here to go out and check that there are Windows Vista compatible drivers for any hardware that is flagged as a potential problem. Anyway, I'm going to ignore this. We'll click Next. And the files required for our installation will be copied to our computer. Now this will take a while, so I'm going to pause this video here and we'll return once Windows Vista requires some more input from us. In fact, before I do that, I'm actually going to click on our Windows key on our keyboard here, and I'll go and open up my computer. And we'll go to our C drive, because don't forget that Windows XP is still humming away in the background here. Now here we can see these three temporary folders here: Upgrade OS, Windows BT, and Windows LS. These temporary folders contain the settings, the temporary files, and Vista operating system files that are required to install the new Vista operating system. And as this installation progresses, there'll also be two other folders created as well, one called In Place TR and Windows Q. And these two new folders will contain your old copy of XP and your old user and machine specific settings. Now once Vista's installed, these folders will remain on your computer just in case they're needed, but once we've installed Vista, I'll show you how to go and get rid of them. Now our computer will restart itself during the upgrade, and this will all happen automatically. And if you happen to be sitting in front of your computer after the restart, hold down Shift on your keyboard and hit F10 to open up a command prompt, and you'll more than likely find yourself connected to a drive letter X, which Vista uses for its upgrade. Now in the root of this X drive, you'll find all these folders that we just talked about. So if you're bored, go ahead and take a look. Alright, as I said before, I'm just going to pause this video now, and we'll be back soon when Setup needs my help. Okay, our system is rebooted and Windows Vista is almost installed now, so we're at a familiar point in our installation. We've seen this before in the past installation. Do we want to configure Windows Update for all settings, only important ones, or just to skip this for now? Now I'm just going to use the recommended settings. Again, we can choose our time zone, our date and time. Now I'm going to leave these the way they are and click Next. And finally, we'll again choose Work for our location, and we're done. Now it will take a little while for Vista to fire up for the first time, so I'm going to again pause the video and we'll return once we're fully loaded. Okay, Vista's installed. We've now successfully completed our Windows XP upgrade. Alright, now I did promise you I'd show you how to get rid of those lingering folders that are left around after an upgrade to Vista, and it's pretty simple really. We'll go and click on Start, and we'll open up the item that's formerly known as My Computer, and we'll right click on our C drive, and we'll choose Properties. And right here in the middle of this window, we'll choose Disk Cleanup. Now I'll choose to clean up all files, and I'll need to allow this application to start, which is being blocked by User Account Control feature, which is a new security feature of Windows Vista here, and we'll talk more about that in later videos. So we'll click Continue, and the Disk Cleanup application will then search this computer for any files it thinks I can safely do without. Okay, now if we go and scroll down this list here, you can see here we have an option to reclaim disk space by clearing up files that have been discarded by Windows upgrades. So if we check this box and then click on OK, this will just remove all the old files. But just make sure that Vista is working fine before you do this, just in case of the unlikely event that you need these folders, which contain both your original Windows installation folders and your user and machine settings. And these folders here are remaining on our Windows Vista system on purpose, by the way, just in case something goes wrong with them being migrated across, so you can grab them if you need. Alright, well, you've seen how to perform a brand new installation of Windows Vista, as well as how to upgrade Windows XP. But if you're just not yet sure whether to leap straight into Vista yet, or wait a bit, let's take a look at how to perform a dual boot scenario so you can easily use both operating systems. Now, it should go without saying, back up anything that's important before doing this, just in case of problems. Alright, as we did with our first brand new installation, we'll need to boot our computer using the Windows Vista DVD. Now, I've done that ahead of time, and we're at this first startup screen that you see here, so we'll choose Next, and then we'll choose Install Now. Now we'll need to enter in our license key again, and of course, then we'll need to click Next. And then we'll accept the license terms and conditions, and we'll choose Next again. Okay, well this time we'll choose a custom installation. Now there we can see at the top here, which is my current drive that obviously has Windows XP on it at the moment. Now to install Windows Vista in a multi-boot situation, I'm either going to require another drive or at least another partition. So on this computer, I've added in a new drive, so I'll select my new disk here, which is disk 1. So we'll select that, and we'll click Next. Now since this drive is new, you can see here I will get an error telling me that we can't install to that selected location, so we'll click on the Advanced Drive options and we'll choose New to create a new partition on this disk. Now I'm just going to use all of the available space here and then click Apply to apply this change. We can now see our primary partition has been created for this new disk, so all we need to do now is simply click Next. And now Windows Vista will begin installing to the new drive. Of course, as usual, this is going to take a while, so I'm going to pause the video again and we'll return shortly. Okay, we're back. So we now need to enter in a username and password. So I'm going to enter in my username of Winstructor, and I'm just going to type in a password, and we'll do it again one more time just to confirm it. And I'm just going to leave our default picture here and click Next. Okay, now I can enter in a hostname for this computer, and we've seen all these things before, so I'm going to leave the default here and click Next. Again, I'm going to use our recommended settings. I'll leave the default for our time zone here, and I'll choose Work for our location, and we're done. Okay, well what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause this video here, and when Vista is up, I'm going to restart it. That way we can boot into our new menu and choose whichever operating system we want to load. Alright, now I've just restarted my computer and it now boots into this new menu where we have 30 seconds to choose which operating system we'd like to load. Now if we don't select anything within 30 seconds, then the default operating system, which is Windows Vista, will automatically start up. Now if it at all bothers you that this menu doesn't say Windows XP, it says here an earlier version of Windows, then what we can do is we can fire up Windows Vista and I'll show you how to fix that. Okay, we're back in Windows Vista and we need to use the bcd edit command to edit our boot configuration. Now in Windows XP, this was a little easier as you could just edit a simple text file, but with Vista, that functionality has moved to the BCD edit command, presumably as it makes scripting these changes easier. Okay, so we'll go and click on Start, and we'll simply type in CMD as we want to open up a new command prompt. And here's a little hint for you now. If I simply hit Enter and open up this command prompt now, then it will open with low privileges, and as such, I won't be able to run the command I want to. So let's do it anyway. We'll try it. We'll run BCD edit, and I'll just hit Enter. And as you can see, access has been denied as we don't have the privileges to run it. Okay, so this time we're going to have to open up a command prompt with administrator privileges, and to do that, we'll again click on Start. We'll type in CMD, but this time when we hit Enter, we'll also hold down the Control and Shift keys and then hit Enter. And we'll get a user account control message asking us to confirm that we do in fact want to run this command, so we'll click Continue. Okay, this time our command prompt opens in administrator mode, and at the top in the title bar here, you can see the word Administrator. Okay, so let's run BCD edit again, and we'll run it with no arguments. And this time you can see our command works fine. Alright, well if we look at the output of this command, we can see here Microsoft Windows Vista and our earlier operating system listed here. Now to change the text in our bootloader to read Windows XP, we'll simply need to reissue our command BCD edit. We'll use the /set switch followed by the identifier of the operating system that we want to change, which of course is this one here, which will be NT Loader. So we'll need to enter in NT Loader in the curly braces as you see it, followed by a description, and then the new description that we want to have. So in this case, I'll simply enter in Windows XP. Okay, so we'll hit Enter. We can see the operation completed successfully, so let's go and run our command again. And now we can see our description has changed to Windows XP. Now I'll also point out another thing here, that by default, Windows Vista is the default operating system that will be booted when you start your computer. Now if we scroll up a little bit here, we can see here that the default is set to current, and if we scroll down, we can see the identifier current is of course our Windows Vista. So what's going to happen here is if you just power on your computer and then walk away, the menu is going to sit there for a total of 30 seconds. And if there's been no keyboard activity at all, it's simply going to start up the default operating system, which of course is Windows Vista. Now, if you want, you can change either this timeout value here, or of course the default operating system. And we can do both of these things from this command as well. So to change the timeout value, we'll again run BCD edit, followed by the timeout switch, and then we can change the value that we want. So I'll just say 15 seconds. And if we run BCD edit again, we can see now our timeout value has changed. Okay, so to change the default operating system that'll be loaded once this timeout of 15 seconds now expires, again we'll need to run BCD edit, followed by the default switch, and then we'll need to supply the identifier of the operating system we wish to make the default, which of course in this case is going to be our NT Loader here. Okay, so we'll enter that in and we'll hit Enter, and we can see the operation completed successfully. So if we go and run our command one more time, and we'll scroll up, here we can see the default operating system is now NT Loader, which of course is Windows XP. Alright, so let's go and reboot our computer. Okay, well I've just restarted the PC and we're back at our boot menu. This time it's a little more friendly as we now have Windows XP and Windows Vista to choose from. The timeout value is now 15 seconds, and if we don't actually change anything here, then the default operating system of Windows XP is going to be loaded instead of Windows Vista. So if you're a little unsure whether to leap straight into Vista, well, you can still enjoy the taste of both operating systems until such time as you're ready to retire Windows XP. Okay, in this video, we've seen how to install Windows Vista in a variety of ways. We started with a fresh installation of Windows Vista and saw how to upgrade from Windows XP, and also how to install Vista in a multi-boot situation. Now that Windows Vista is installed, we can move on in this series of videos and we'll take a good look at what Windows Vista has to offer.